Well, welcome back once more, my classic dirt bike TV fans, and many thanks once again to you all for your continuing support of my YouTube channel. Now, as I've still been unable to attend any kind of off-road classic event so far during 2020, I still have plenty of racing action to show you from my previous years of filming vintage race events. So in this featured video, we're going classic racing once again with the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Racing Club. Well, hello again all my YouTubers. Welcome to round 6 of the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Club's 2018 Racing Championship. Today we're here at Carnduff Farm in Chapleton, near Strathaven. Well, yes, hello, we're back again in central Scotland for round 6 of the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Club's 2018 Racing Championship. Now, this track at Strathaven is a brand new venue for the club, as this is our first time racing on this prestigious racetrack. So we're going to get straight into race 1 with the combined pre-1968 class. Now, the weather here at Carnduff Farm is excellent at the moment for this vintage racing event. So as we just wait on the riders leaving the line, it's a good start by Ian Ridley, but coming down the inside it looks like Peter Dobinson is your race leader on that lovely sounding Rickman Triumph. So as they head to the bottom section of the track, it's number 41, that's Peter Dobinson from Penrith on the Rickman Triumph in first position. A lovely sounding bike this when it flies past you at top speed. Second place is Liston Bell, third is Stuart Riddle. Other riders going through there is Ian Ridley, number 51, number 73 is Tom Forsyth. But it looks like we have a new race leader. It's number 98, Liston Bell. Now it looks like Liston's riding his old BSA at this particular race event. The Bell brothers, of course, have a vast choice of machines for classic racing, and sometimes it's very hard to keep up with what particular bike they're riding in which particular race. But second position there is now 41, that's Peter Dobinson riding that Rickman Triumph Twin. Third position just going through is Stuart Riddle on that twin port CZ with Fergus Moody in fourth position. But it's quite a short circuit here at Strathaven, and our race leader Liston Bell is already coming round to start his second lap of this first race of the day. Liston going very well on that BSA. Second, I think, is still Peter Dobinson on the Rickman Triumph, and also coming through in third position is number 122, that's Fergus Moody on the BSA. Number 164 in the blue there, that's Stuart Riddle on one of his CZ bikes. Stuart also races a very nice 1965 twin port CZ, so just one of the many CZ bikes that Stuart races at these classic events. So here is your race leader. It's still Liston Bell, number 98, who's starting lap 3. Remember, we have, I think it's 4 or 5 laps for these old classic bikes, whereas the pre-1984 class will have approximately 8 laps. So here is your race leader, Liston Bell, number 98. We're looking at further down the pack now. It's that looks like number 51, that's Ian Ridley on that beautiful BSA Victor. So we're looking at our second place position rider, number 122, that's Fergus Moody. Third will now be Peter Dobinson on the right there, number 41. fourth position will be Stuart Riddle, number 164, on that very nice looking CZ bike. Okay, as our race leader comes round to begin his last and final lap of this first pre-1968 class race of the day, it's number 98. That's Liston Bell, one of course of the two very talented Bell brothers who race these classic bikes in Scotland. Now second position will still be number 122, just coming through there. It's Fergus Moody on that BSA. Also coming towards us, number 71 is Brian Aird, but it's a win for Liston Bell with Fergus Moody in second. Okay, next up it's race 2. This is the pre-1975 class. Now a lot of very talented riders in here, and look out for the likes of Stuart Roden, Leslie Calderwood, and Ian Robertson is in there. Robert Kennedy also racing. So as they go into turn 1, it looks like a good start by Tommy Anderson on the Husqvarna. Number 14 going past there, that's Brian Hamilton. But your early race leader is Tommy Anderson, number 3, being hounded by number 100, that's Ian Robertson, on that very quick little 360 Yamaha. So it's Tommy Anderson first, Ian Robertson second, Leslie Calderwood is in there in third, with Stuart Roden in fourth. So there's a very good race developing in this first pre-1975 class race of the day. It's Tommy Anderson here in first position. Second is Ian Robertson on that 360 little Yamaha. Third is Stuart Roden. Fourth is Leslie Calderwood. But absolutely nothing between these first 4 riders. So it's Tommy Anderson on the Husqvarna leads Stuart Roden on the CCM. Third is Ian Robertson. Leslie Calderwood looking to make a move, so it looks like Leslie Calderwood's moved up into third position on the Joe Maxwell at CCM, but we're now looking at Stuart Roden, who has hit the front. Second now is Tommy Anderson. Third is Leslie Calderwood, and fourth is Ian Robertson. But Leslie Calderwood moving up into second position as he passes Tommy Anderson's Husqvarna. So it's a good battle developing at the front here between Stuart Roden and Leslie Calderwood on that 580 at Joe Maxwell at CCM. Ian Robertson is now up into third position. Ian specifically built this little bike for the 2018 racing season, and so far it's been a reliable and very quick little motorcycle. But as they cross the line for another lap, it's still Stuart Roden, your race leader. Second is Leslie Calderwood. Third is Ian Robertson, and fourth is Tommy Anderson as the remainder of the pack cross the line. So we're looking to pick up our race leader, which is number 20. That's Stuart Roden on the Alan Clues CCM. Second is Leslie Calderwood, also riding a CCM bike, but these big 4-strokes well suited to these dry, quick conditions here at Strathaven. This is developing into a very good race at the front between Stuart Roden and Leslie Calderwood, with Ian Robertson and Tommy Anderson bringing up places 3 and 4. So here is your race leader. It's number 20, Stuart Roden, who's just about to pass Robert Kennedy Sr. there on his 75 CCM. So here is your race leader. It's Stuart Roden as they start their last and final lap of this first pre-1975 class race. So it's Stuart Roden being hounded by Leslie Calderwood on that 74 580 CCM bike. So as they make their way towards the checkered flag, it looks like it could be a win for Stuart Roden. But this has been a very close, tight race from the start gate. But as they come to the last 2 or 3 turns before the checkered flag, it's going to be a race win for number 20, Stuart Roden. Very close behind will be Les Calderwood, number 50 on the 580 CCM. Okay, we're moving right along here with the third race, which of course is the first of the pre-1984 class, which of course were normally known as the twin shock class, but there is a couple of monoshock bikes racing in this particular class, so we now call them the pre-1984 class. And it's an early lead for number 75, that's David Loudon. David of course put together this track for us here at Strathaven, so David will know this track very well. So here is your race leader, David Loudon, number 75. Now I'm not sure if David's riding his 465 or his 490 Yamaha, but I'll try and find out. John Stokes is in second place. Neil Glendinning is in third as the rest of the pack make their way through. But looks like David is already beginning to stretch that lead. Number 151 is John Stokes on the 81 490 Michael. So we're looking at number 151, that's John Stokes from Fauldhouse in West Lothian. So John's not had too far to travel to get to this track today, but nevertheless he's doing well on his 81 Michael. Number 121 there, that's Neil Glendinning from Dalbeattie near Castle Douglas. Also doing well riding that very quick 480 Honda. But here is your race leader, number 75, David Loudon, a local man of course from Strathaven. So once again David is racing basically in his back door here, and it looks like he's got a good lead in this first pre-1984 class race of the day. Second should be John Stokes on the Michael in second. Third is Neil Glendinning on the Honda, and number 233 there is Graham Smith on his RM400 Suzuki. Another quick rider is Graham. Just behind Graham looks like it's Gordon Forbes from Helensburgh in Argyllshire, and he's been chased by what looks like Andy Malik riding his big 500 Armstrong machine. Number 54 is Robert Kennedy Jr. on his 560 CCM. So quite a good little scrap here developing between number 19 Gordon Forbes, number 43 Andy Malik, and number 54, that's Robert Kennedy, as they come round to complete yet another lap. But remember, it's 8 laps for this pre-1984 class, and as opposed to 4 or 5 laps for the old vintage bikes. But we're looking at the new second place rider, that's Neil Glendinning. He's now passed John Stokes for that second place position. Neil of course riding one of these big bore 480 Honda machines. Number 151 is John Stokes on the Michael. And just behind John we have Graham Smith now, who is your 4th placed rider. As you can see, the landscape surrounding this Strathaven racetrack is quite superb, and thankfully no rain forecast for this event, so we should have a good day's dry racing. So as our race leader comes towards us, number 75, it's David Loudon riding one of his very quick monoshock Yamaha machines. And it's still Neil Glendinning in 2nd position, with John Stokes just going through on the Michael in 3rd. Graham Smith is now in 4th place. So we're going to pick up our 3rd and 4th placed rider. Now that should be John Stokes, number 151, who is just coming up to lap number 35. That's John Porteous, but Graham Smith beginning to close in on John Stokes and takes that track position. So it looks like Graham Smith will now be your 3rd placed rider. Graham, of course, riding that RM 400 Suzuki. Now, Graham looks like he's sitting on the back mudguard of this little bike, but nevertheless he's very quick on that Japanese Suzuki. So as we pick up our race leader as he heads towards the checkered flag, it looks like it's going to be the first win of the day for number 75, David Loudon. So as he crosses the line to take the checkered flag, it's a win for David Loudon in 1st, with Neil Glendinning in 2nd. Now there's still a good battle ensuing here for the lesser placings, and this is number 19, that's Gordon Forbes from Argyllshire, and it looks like he's going to finish just ahead of Andy Mallock, number 43. Okay, that brings us back to the 2nd pre-1968 class race of the day, and as you can see, the clouds in the background looking rather ominous, but hopefully we'll see no rain here at this Strathaven track. So remember, Liston Bell won that first pre-1968 class race, as we're just waiting on our race starter getting the OK from the track marshal. So it looks like we're all good to go. So as they leave the line, it's another good start by Peter Dobinson on that Rickman Triumph. So as they head down into the first turn, it looks like Stuart Riddle is now your early race leader on that 360 CZ. Second is Liston Bell, and it looks like Liston's already punched his way through to that pole position. Second is Stuart Riddle, 3rd is Fergus Moody, 4th is Peter Dobinson, number 41, and 5th is Brian Aird. Now as you can see, a very quick lap here at Strathaven. It doesn't take them long for these old classic bikes to do a circuit of this track, so it's still Liston Bell 1st, Fergus Moody 2nd, Stuart Riddle 3rd, Peter Dobinson 4th, and Brian Aird on that lovely BSA. But a very good track layout here for this championship round here at Strathaven. Number 122 is Fergus Moody, 164 Stuart Riddle on his CZ or CZ if you're watching this in the United States. But number 41 is Peter Dobinson on the Rickman framed Triumph twin bike. As our riders begin another racing lap. Number 71 again is Brian Aird on his BSA, but here is your race leader completing yet another lap. It's number 98, Liston Bell, one of the very talented Bell brothers. And I think Liston is riding his Tribsaw in this particular race. That's the Triumph engine in the BSA frame. So we're looking at second, third and fourth positions. It's Stuart Riddle on his very nice CZ machine. Third is Peter Dobinson on that Rickman Triumph Twin, and Brian Aird is in there also on his BSA. Just passing us there is our lady rider, that's Helen Cahill. There's your race leader just going through, that's Liston Bell, as his sun begins to shine here at Strathaven. Second place rider is Fergus Moody just going through. So we're looking at our third place position rider, which looks like it could be Peter Dobinson, with Stuart Riddle behind him and Brian Aird. Now of course we only have 4 laps for these old classic dirt bikes, and many of the riders will tell you that 4 laps is usually plenty when you have 6 races per day. So here is your race leader beginning his last and final lap already. It's number 98 Liston Bell. Second place position is Fergus Moody, and we're looking at third place man, number 41 Peter Dobinson. 164 is Stuart Riddle, and 71 is Brian Aird. And so our race leader Liston Bell has already crossed the start and finish line, so it's a win for Liston in first place. Fergus Moody is second, Peter Dobinson is third, and Stuart Riddle is in fourth. Now next up, it's the second race for the pre-1975 class. Now remember, we had a good battle here between Stuart Roden and Les Calderwood for that second and third position, so we'll see how this race pans out as they leave the line. But it's another good start by Stuart Roden, but goes a bit wide. Les Calderwood has got the jump and heads towards the front of the pack as the rest of the riders head into the bottom section of the track. So it's Leslie Calderwood on the 580 CCM bike, leads number 20 Stuart Roden, also riding one of those big 4-stroke CCMs. Ian Robertson is third, Tommy Anderson is fourth, and it looks like Michael McNiven on the CZ is just close behind. So here is your race leader, number 50 Leslie Calderwood on the Joe Maxwell Engineering 580 CCM. These bikes, of course, ideally suited to these dry conditions here at this Strathaven racetrack. Stuart Roden very quick also on that CCM, but it looks like Leslie is already opening up a slight gap in first position. Ian Robertson is third, Tommy Anderson is fourth, Michael McNiven is there on his CZ machine. But we're looking at our race leader, number 50 in that orange outfit. That's Leslie Calderwood riding. This is a replica, of course, CCM bike, which is like it's like a remanufactured machine, but nevertheless a CCM all the same. But as the laps count down on this second pre-1975 class race, it's still Leslie Calderwood who has a decent lead over second place man Stuart Roden. Both these riders, of course, riding these Alan Clues BSA derived CCM machines. It looks like Stuart is beginning to close the gap to Leslie as the laps count down, but Les is still riding superbly on that big 4-stroke bike. But this could be a good battle as we head towards the end of the second pre-1975 class race. We're looking at number 2 here. I think that could be Stuart Dixon from North Berwick on his nice little CZ machine. But here is a battle for that first place position between number 50 Leslie Calderwood and number 20 Stuart Roden. But Stuart looks like he's getting this big CCM hooked up, and he's certainly visually beginning to gain on Leslie Calderwood on that Joe Maxwell CCM. And so as they head towards the checkered flag, it looks like it's going to be a win for number 50 Leslie Calderwood, and Stuart Roden will take second position. Okay, next up we are back to the second pre-1984 class race of the day. Remember, David Loudon won that first race on his YZ Yamaha, so we'll look and see how David fares in this second pre-1984 class. So as they line up and leave the line, it's number 151. It looks like John Stokes with the early lead on that 480 Honda machine, but Gordon Forbes is shot into the lead, number 19 on the 490 Micro. So it's Gordon Forbes, your race leader, the man from Helensburgh in Argyllshire on the west coast of Scotland. And just making the jump together there is number 43 Andy Mallock and number 54 Robert Kennedy Jr. But as we look towards our race leader at lap 1, it's still Gordon Forbes, number 19. Second is Neil Glendinning, so it's the 490 Micro versus the big 500 Honda of Neil Glendinning. And as you can make out, there's some very quick riders in this pre-1984 class race. Now your new race leader is Neil Glendinning. Second is now David Loudon. Third is Gordon Forbes. Fourth is John Stokes. But as they cross the line, again it's number 121. That's Neil Glendinning on the big 500 Honda. This track, of course, not ideally suited for these big bore machines. These big bore bikes, like the big Hondas and the 490 Micros, like the wide open spaces so they can stretch their legs, but nevertheless that big Honda is still coping with the tight and twisty turns here at the Strathaven racetrack. And so it's a man from Dalbeattie near Castle Douglas, number 21. That's Neil Glendinning, your race leader of the second pre-1984 class race of the day. Second is David Loudon. Third is John Stokes. Fourth is Graham Smith on the Suzuki. Fifth is Gordon Forbes. Sixth is Robert Kennedy Jr. there on that big CCM. This is a good personal battle between number 54 Robert Kennedy from Lark Hall and number 43 Andy Mallock from Burrelton in Perthshire. So a good race developing between these two riders. So as a race leader comes round to cross the line for yet another lap, it's number 121 Neil Glendinning first. Second is David Loudon. Now remember, 8 laps for the pre-1984 class as opposed to 4 laps for the older classic bikes. So your race leader is still number 121. That's Neil Glendinning on the big 500 Honda 2-stroke. Very quick machines, these Honda bikes. Second is still David Loudon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if David's actually riding his 465 Yamaha or his 490. Both these bikes are very similar, and it's sometimes hard to work out which particular bike David is riding. Just going through there is Robert Kennedy, number 54, Dookie Harrow going through there on the Curtis Honda. But here is your race leader coming round to complete yet another lap. I'll just give you an idea how quick these bikes are circumnavigating this Strathaven racetrack. So it's number 121, Neil Glendinning. Second place is still David Loudon, number 75, as you can just see him here taking the jump and heading into the centre of the track. But it's going to be a win for number 121. That's Neil Glendinning on the 500 Honda. Second will be David Loudon, number 75. So another good race from these very quick riders. Okay, next up we move on to the third race for the pre-1968 classic bikes. This will be their final race before the afternoon lunch break, so it's a good start by Liston Bell once again, and looks like Peter Dobinson is in second position on that Rickman Triumph as they all head to the bottom section of the track. So it's still Liston Bell riding, I think, his Tribsa in this particular race, the Triumph engine with the BSA frame. Second, Peter Dobinson. Third, Fergus Moody. Fourth is Brian Aird. 164 is Stuart Riddle. Number 5 is Gordon Watson. And number 246 there is Ian Ward on the Villiers. Now please remember, these are just the racing highlights from these races. As mentioned in the last race, in the pre-1984 class, there are 8 laps, but obviously we're not going to show you the full 8-lap races. We are trying to condense it into a more manageable video. But there is your race leader. It's still number 98, Liston Bell. Second is number 122, Fergus Moody. Third is Peter Dobinson, number 41. Number 71 is Brian Aird. 164 is Stuart Riddle. As we check out our race leader, it's still Liston Bell, number 98, who could possibly be heading for his third win of the morning session here in Strathaven. Riding very well on that big Tribsa. Now normally Liston races with his brother Lewis. Now I'm unsure as to why Lewis was not at this particular event, but normally it's a good race when these Bell brothers get together. So it's Liston Bell, your race leader. Fergus Moody is still in second position, and Peter Dobinson is still in third. And so we're looking at number 41, that's Peter Dobinson in third position, with Brian Aird, number 71, close behind on the BSA, but these two riders going very well in this third pre-1968 class race. Also coming towards us is number 164 in the blue there, that's Stuart Riddle, with one of the many CZ or CZ machines that Stuart normally brings to these events. So we're looking once again at our race leader, number 98, Lewis Bell, as he comfortably heads towards possibly his third race win of the morning. After this first block of races, we normally have a lunch break, and then of course we move on to the age related races in the second part of the day's programme. Now the weather at this point is absolutely superb for racing these old classic dirt bikes, and as a race leader, Liston Bell comes round to start his last and final lap of this third pre-1968 class race. You can see that Liston looks like he's going to have a nice comfortable run to the checkered flag on this, his last and final lap. And this bike of Liston's is of course just one of the many bikes that the Bell family bring to these classic races, and it's often chop and change on each and every race with the Bell brothers, but they do try to keep up to speed with what particular bike they're using at any particular race. So there is your second place man going through, number 122 Fergus Moody. We are now with our race leader as he comes round to take the checkered flag for his third race win in this pre-1968 class. That's number 98, Liston Bell. Looks like Peter Dobinson is going to come through there in third position on his Rickman Triumph. A lovely sounding machine this when it blasts past you at full throttle. Okay, we're back once more to the third and final race for the pre-1975 class before the lunch break. Now in race 1 we saw Stuart Roden take the win, and in race 2 it was Leslie Calderwood, number 50, and it looks like Leslie Calderwood has made another excellent start here and takes the early lead, so it'll be good to see which one of these riders are going to fight for the bragging rights in this last and final pre-1975 class race. So at the moment it's Stuart Roden, your early leader. Les Calderwood just going through on the outside. Number 100 there is Ian Robertson on his little DT 360 Yamaha. And so as we look to the far side of the track to pick up our race leader in this lap 1, it's still Leslie Calderwood, number 50, on that Joe Maxwell 1974 580 CCM, who is your race leader and looking good in this third and final pre-1975 race before the break. Second is still Stuart Roden, number 20, also riding one of those Alan Clues CCM bikes. So as they head towards us, it's number 50, Leslie Calderwood, your race leader, who is beginning to open a slight gap to second man Stuart Roden, number 20. Third is Tommy Anderson on the Husqvarna. Third is Ian Robertson. Fourth, it looks like Michael McNiven on that CZ. Brian Hamilton going through, number 14. But it's still Les Calderwood, your race leader, number 50, on that very quick 580 CCM, a really fast machine. This of course is not an original bike from 1974, but a remanufactured copy, a copy of course in every respect to the original design put down by Alan Clues, but nevertheless it's still an authentic CCM machine. Second is Stuart Roden, number 20. Third is Tommy Anderson on the Husqvarna. Fourth is Ian Robertson on the 360 Yamaha. Just behind Ian is number 70, that's Michael McNiven. Number 54 is Robert Kennedy Jr. Number 22 is Darryl Wiley. But here is your race leader as he comes round to complete yet another lap. Absolutely flying is Les Calderwood, number 50, on that big brute of a CCM. So it's a man from Northern Ireland who now of course lives and works in Scotland. It's number 50, Leslie Calderwood, your race leader. Second is Stuart Roden, number 20, also riding one of those beautiful CCM machines. But as he comes round to complete yet another lap, it's the man in orange, number 50, Leslie Calderwood, on the GME CCM bike. Leslie looking good to take the win in this third pre-1975 class race of the morning session. But Les riding superbly. Of course, these big, long, stroking, powerful four-stroke bikes are ideally suited to these tight, twisty tracks, and they can put the power down much better than some of the quicker two-stroke machines. Now, of course, these four-stroke machines deliver their power slightly more different from big, buzzy two-stroke machines, but it's to whichever the rider prefers. Some riders prefer the big two-stroke bikes, while the likes of Leslie Calderwood here in our first position prefers these big single-cylinder four-stroke bikes. So as Les starts his last and final lap of this third pre-1975 class race, it's a good race by Les. He's almost led from turn 1. Doesn't look like Stuart Roden is going to get close enough to make a pass on this last and final lap, so if Les can just keep things together, he should take the win in this pre-1975 class race. Number 100 coming towards us, that's Ian Robertson. Michael McNiven there on the CZ machine. But as they head towards the checkered flag, it looks like it's going to be win number 2 for the Irishman at number 50, Les Calderwood. Okay, this brings us quite nicely to the last and final race before the half-time break. This is the final race for the pre-1984 class before the break, so it's a good start once again by David Loudon on the YZ Yamaha. Graham Smith has made an excellent start there on the RM400 Suzuki. Neil Glendinning is sitting in third place, but looks like he's going down the inside of Graham Smith, so it's currently David Loudon, number 75, your race leader. Second, Neil Glendinning. Third is Graham Smith. Fourth is Andy Mallock, and number 19 is Gordon Forbes. And so as the riders come towards us, it's number 75, David Loudon, your race leader. Second is Neil Glendinning. Remember, we had a titanic battle between these two riders in the second race, so it looks like we're going to have much more of the same. So it's still number 75, David Loudon, leads Neil Glendinning. Third is Graham Smith there on the Suzuki. Fourth is Andy Mallock on that Armstrong with the Rotax motor, big four-stroke single-cylinder machine. But another good battle beginning to hot up here between number 75 David Loudon and Neil Glendinning. So as they cross the line once more, it's still number 75 leads number 21. Number 233 is Graham Smith, number 43 is Andy Mallock, and number 19 is Gordon Forbes on the 81 490 Michael. Remember, 8 laps for the pre-1984 class boys, although of course we will not show you the full 8 laps due to the constraints on the size of the video posting, but we're looking at number 75, that's David Loudon on the YZ. It could be his 490 or 465, I'm not really sure, but nevertheless a very quick machine. Second position is number 121, that's Neil Glendinning on that big 480 Honda two-stroke. The Scottish Classic Club members have laid out a fantastic track here at Strathaven for this championship round. No jumps, of course, as we try to avoid those kind of things for these older classic bikes, to try and keep them together and keep them running on the track. But it's still number 75, David Loudon, your race leader from number 121. That's Ryan Glendinning, who appears to be closing in on the Yamaha rider, so we'll just stay with these two riders to see if Neil can make the pass on this particular lap. But David Loudon riding superbly on that Japanese Yamaha machine. Number 43 is Andy Mallock on Armstrong. At number 21, that's Dougie Harrow on the Curtis Honda. And as the race leaders come round to start yet another lap, it looks like Neil Glendinning is lining up David Loudon for the pass of this third pre-1984 class race, so we could see a good scrap towards the checkered flag as we count the laps down. But it's still number 75, David Loudon on the Yamaha, who leads number 121. That's Neil Glendinning on that equally quick 480 Honda. So as we look to the far side of the wooded section of the track, it's still David Loudon leads Neil Glendinning, so it's going to be a battle royal in this last few laps of this final pre-1984 class race before the break. So as they cross the line to complete another racing lap, it's still 75, David Loudon. Looks like we had a rider down there in the middle of the track, but both these riders being quite sensible managed to avoid him. So it's still David Loudon leads Neil Glendinning, nothing at all between these two very quick riders. Not twin choke bikes, of course, both these bikes riding with the much more modern single shock suspension. Number 43 is Andy Mallock, once again riding that Armstrong Rotax, and number 19 is Gordon Forbes. And so as we look at our two front runners in this last pre-1984 class race of the day, I do hope you've enjoyed this part 1 video from the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Racing Club. Don't forget there will be more of the racing from this venue in part 2 on my YouTube channel coming soon. But as these riders head towards the checkered flag on their last lap, it's still David Loudon managing to keep Neil Glendinning on that 480 Honda at arm's length. So as they exit the first 2 or 3 turns, it's going to be another win for number 75, David Loudon, with Neil Glendinning in second position.